Right, as promised, the last stage of the bubble quilt. This is my back, which I pieced, because this is using up leftover fabric. When it comes to sewing it on, because I've got borders, it's very difficult to try and pull this flat to get a flat, so I sewed it all the way on the edge of the 2.5 inch border, and then I quilted the last of the border. It doesn't, you can't see at the back if you use this kind of fabric that this isn't a straight line where you sewed it on the front to attach the front to the back, because you can't see to get this straight, because puffs doesn't make it straight, because of the shape and the size. So when you quilt the sides, you have to pull it flat as you go in. Let's just get you down just so you can see. You have to pull it when you're to make sure this stays away, so you don't get it puckered here while you're quilting this outside bit. So originally it's sewed there to attach the top to the bottom, and then I quilted the side. It's still not attached here, so the bottom and the top still not attached on this section, so this isn't attached to the bottom. So what I might do to attach, because obviously it'll need attaching in certain places along the top, I might put buttons, yard buttons, about every second row in. Well, I don't know yet, I've got to find some buttons first so I'll actually match that top. In the meantime, it's not going to be washed yet or anything, so I don't have to worry about it till I find some buttons to match. Anyway, that's what we've got so far, so I've just got to bind it. It's really comfortable and puffy and soft. I'm glad I've had the experience of doing one. Perhaps another way of doing this would have been to, when you sew this first border onto the actual quilt using the edge, which then would be straight, then attach the underneath to this section on the side here. If you can actually see what I'm pointing to, this section, that's where I sewed this first border, which then obviously is straight. What I would do is actually turn that under and just put the underneath onto this section at the same time, and then turn that under as binding. I have thought about it, and there is a way of doing it, so that's the other way you can actually make sure, but then again you won't have a border, so it'll be just the puff on its own. So you'd have to think about it. You'll never get this straight because this pulls it up, so you'll never get it completely flat, and you'll never be able to get this completely flat in your sewing machine. So that's why I didn't sew there and I attached it there. Well, I'm happy with that. It's to go on top of my bed, and it's a lap quilt for me. As I say, the back was pieced. Just because I'm using up fabrics that I'm not going to use on anything else. So this section was some very old vintage. This is I think this is about 1960s or 1970s that I bought from a lady. Lovely stuff, but I just wouldn't use it anywhere else. And then obviously that was a panel, and it is lovely, but I couldn't think of what to do with it or where to use it. And as it's the same colours as the front, I wouldn't mind it at the back of this one. So that's fine by me, because I'm going to turn it over. And I just used up other fabrics I had. It's a good way of using up leftovers. So that's where we've got at the moment. So I've got two sides, both interesting. I'm absolutely fine with them. It's right side, I put it on top of my bed to keep warm in the winter. And all I've got to do now is bind it, and I'll put another one. When I'm bound it, I've got to find this fabric out and make some binding, and decide how I'm going to bind it. I might even do curves. I've never done that yet, so I might practice on this one. So we'll see.